Hey everybody, welcome. In this video, I wanted to share with you what happened when I gave my TEDx talk. Now, at the moment, I don't have a link to the talk to share with you. I'll explain a little bit about that as we go through, but as soon as it's available, I'm going to put a link in the description notes and I will let you all know. Okay, so here's the deal. So as you've seen in previous videos, right, like I had to write the talk, which took me a couple months. I had to memorize the talk, and I gave myself about 2 months to do that, although it took me really probably about 5, maybe 6 weeks before I really had it down, working at a pace that I felt comfortable with, okay? And then before I knew it, right, it was time. It was time to go to Lander, Wyoming, and which I could drive to, which was nice, and participate in TEDx. And so this is what happened. So, all right, my TEDx talk was scheduled for a Saturday night. And it was in Lander, Wyoming. And so I got to Lander, Wyoming, got myself situated and all of that good stuff. Didn't meet up with anybody beforehand. We had a sound check that weekend at 2 o'clock. And so I showed up for the sound check. And the event held about 200 people. It was in a community center. It was really, really well done. Pretty just, standard stage, standard, TEDx kind of decorations and statements in the background, that sort of a thing. And so I'm trying to remember, I think there were 6 of us. There were 6 or 7 of us. I can't remember without stopping to count on my hand, and I'm not going to do that. And I was scheduled to go second. So they asked us all to show up and basically get up on the stage and just kind of talk for a few minutes and let the sound guy do his magic. And if he was happy with it and you were happy with it, then basically, we were free to go. And so I got to be first to do this somehow. And so I got up on the stage and, I said, well, I'll just start from the beginning and, cut me off when you cut me off. And so the thing about my talk that you all should know is that I'm telling a story. I started off telling a story about a student named Ronnie. And Ronnie was really into professional wrestling, and I was a middle school teacher in the late 90s. That's where I situate my talk. And so Ronnie was really into professional wrestling, and he was really into The Rock during a time when The Rock was a wrestler. But during this time, The Rock was new, right? And he's certainly new to me, and I didn't watch professional wrestling. And so I have this whole thing in there where Ronnie is doing this impersonation of The Rock, and I'm very confused about what's going on. And in order to make this like this authentic, accurate, well-told, engaging story, I had to explain what I saw Ronnie doing, which required me to do an impersonation of The Rock, okay? Not just live in front of people, right, on the stage later that evening, but also on video that is, ideally going up on the TEDx YouTube channel. So I had rehearsed this, in front of other people, and they all agreed with me. No, you gotta do the Rock impersonation, because on the one hand, I felt stupid doing a Rock impersonation, and on the other hand, I felt even more stupid if I didn't do the Rock impersonation. So if you're gonna do the story, you have to do the impersonation. So I'm up on stage during the sound check, and we get almost to the point where I had to do the impersonation, and the guy says, "Okay," sound guy says, "Okay, that sounds great. Like, I'm happy with it if you are." And he's like, you can be done with that. And I said, well, I am happy with it, but here's the thing. I said, I have to do an impersonation of The Rock. And I said, and it's absolutely terrifying to me. It's the scariest part of my entire talk is doing this impersonation. And I said, so if you don't mind, I'd like to just pick up where you cut me off. And I said, it's just a little bit more. And I'd like to do my impersonation of The Rock in front of these roughly, there may be 20 people there, right? The speakers, maybe some of their guests were with them, other people that were setting up the event. I'm like, I'd like to just get it out of my system once on stage in front of a bunch of strangers. And so he's like, absolutely, go for it. And so I did. I did my whole, do you smell what The Rock is cooking thing, which I don't think is actually the phrase. I think the phrase is, if you smell what The Rock is cooking. But the kid in my class had said, do you smell what The Rock is cooking? So I did it the way that the kid did it. And you can look up The Rock and see what it is that I had to do, or get an idea, right, of what it is I had to do if you're not sure about it. So anyway, so I did that, got it out of my system. Learned about where we go backstage and all of that stuff, and talked with somebody who had done one of these before and was actually there filling in because they'd had a last minute cancellation, and got some pointers from her. And so then I went back to my room. I was there, I don't know. I mean, I probably hung out and kind of learned the lay of the land for maybe 45 minutes to an hour, did my sound check and went back. And then the doors opened at 5. And it started at 5:30. So they just needed us to show up around, around 5, 5:15, 5:20, but I can't handle that. That's cutting it too close for me. Even though it was a 1-mile drive from where I was staying to the event. So I showed up at 4:30. Immediately got a drink, by the way, which is recommended if you're okay with that, to just sort of calm you down. And kind of talked with the other speakers, had some friends that were there, people from work that were there, to watch. And so kind of talked to them as they came in, greeted them, got everybody situated, that sort of thing. And then really about 5:15 went backstage. When the first guy went up, there is so we had our stage and you've got, the seats in front of the stage, but they didn't fill up the whole community center or this whole space of the community center. So they had a divider that went down the middle and then off into the backstage area. And so on this other side of the divider, it was just empty space and nobody could see you. And so you could hang out back there if you wanted to, or there was also a room behind the stage that you could hang out in. So when the first guy was up, of course, then my anxiety really, really hit. And so I just went out into this space that was on the other side of the divider. And, his talk was easily the full amount of time, the 18 minutes. He may even have gone over a little bit. And I couldn't focus on his talk. I just paced. I just walked in this big circle continuously, constantly obsessing over the first line of my talk because I had convinced myself that all I needed to do was nail that first line. And if I nailed that first line, which I'd been saying since January 2nd, so why would I not nail the first line? But if I could just say the first line, then the rest I figured would just tumble out of me. It would just come out naturally because I had practiced it so much. So for a good 15, 20 minutes, I paced. I was already mic'd up and ready to go. And then when I could tell he was starting to wind down his talk, then I went over and stood, back a little ways right off the stage, where ideally nobody could see me. Got introduced, got my mic turned on, hopped up on the stage. And I will say this, I was very nervous when I woke up Saturday morning. I was absolutely terrified. And those nerves did not get any better as I went through the day. And they were probably at their peak moment when, the first speaker was on and I was pacing in circles. And I swear to you, as soon as I walked up the steps and got on the stage, I was fine. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but I was fine. And I said that first line and everything just came out of me. And here's the thing. I could not see the clock. And I heard this when the first guy was coming off the stage, he said he couldn't see the clock. However, they have a timer set up so you can see it so that you don't go over your 18 minutes. And he's like, I can't see it at all. I think the lights, the way things were structured, I don't know, you couldn't see it. And I had practiced my talk enough that I knew it was going to come in between 15 and 16 minutes. And I was like, I actually don't need the clock. The clock might stress me out. I'm not used to looking at the clock. I'm used to just running it and timing it. And it is what it is. And so I I couldn't see the clock at all. And I just let that go because I knew I had practiced enough that it should be fine. And I shouldn't need to worry about going over. And I didn't. I think they told me I came out 16 minutes and 30 seconds, somewhere around there. So I was great. I didn't go over. You don't want to go over because if you go over, TEDx, the official TEDx channel won't put you on YouTube. They maybe can edit you down a little bit, but really just don't set yourself up for that in the first place. So I was very convinced I was not going to go over. I worked hard to not go over and I didn't go over. And I made sure I gave myself a little bit of cushion in case, I slowed down or, started talking a little slowly along the way. I wanted to have a little bit of cushion. So the nerves went away. Now I knew, I had people there that I knew and I knew where they were sitting, right? They were maybe 4 or 5 rows back and I knew exactly where to look. Not once did I look at them on purpose. Not once did I make eye contact with any of them. I did not want to see the look on their faces, nothing. So I kind of looked out and over the audience, right? I would look, turn my head and look around, but I would look out and over the audience. And it's not a big room. It only held, a couple hundred people. So it's not like where you're on, for example, like a big stage with thousands of people and maybe you can only see a little bit in front of you. I could see the room if I wanted to see the room. I could see anybody that I wanted to see. I chose not to look at them. I chose to look over them instead. But the nerves went away. I did stumble a couple of times, but nobody seemed to catch that, because when I talk to people, they're like, oh, it was great. It was perfect. Like you know, and I'm like, no, I mean, I made a couple of mistakes. It's just, you don't know I made a couple of mistakes. So, you know, my mindset going into this, one of the things that I learned was, you know, if you're saying your talk, at least this is how it worked for me. You know, I'm saying my talk, and if I blanked on a line when I was at home practicing, if I blanked on a line, instead of freaking out and, you know, or beating myself up or immediately running over to the script, I just paused for a second and took a breath. And usually if I did that and if I relaxed myself and didn't panic, the next line would come in. And so I practiced that way. Okay. And so when I got on stage, it did happen at least once, maybe twice. And it just, you know, it's okay. I just caught my pace back up. It was fine. And I think the other thing too, that I had committed to, before I went on stage, and again, this is how I practiced, was, you know, if you've ever played in like a marching band, right, or a concert band, like in middle school or high school or college, right, then one of the things that you know is like, if you hit a wrong note, you don't let the audience know. You don't have a temper tantrum. You keep going. You don't quit on the spot. So no matter what, even if I had forgotten a line, I knew the gist of what was going on in my talk, and I would make sure I would keep myself moving forward. So that was a commitment that I had made to myself too. They did allow you, although nobody did this, they did allow you, like if you, maybe like if I had messed up or if I had completely skipped a line or two and I wanted to stop and back up and redo it, they did allow us to do that. You know, and then they would edit out the mistake. But I didn't want to do that. I'm like, one and done. We're doing one take and we're done here. And I did it and I was really, really happy with it. So overall, what I would say is this. If this is something that you want to do, I absolutely think you should do it. I will tell you, it is a lot of work. Not just getting the talk itself. I mean, that just sort of takes a lot of persistence. If you have a good idea and you can, you know, do your application really well, then it's really just persistence. But once you land it, it's a lot of work, both in writing the talk, in memorizing the talk, in dealing with your nerves and giving, I mean, it's a lot of work, and it was very overwhelming at different points in time. But I think the key is, right, to just focus in on what you're working at in that moment, what you're working on in that moment, and try to let the other stuff go and know that it will come together in time. So it is a lot of work. It's an intense amount of work. I spent October, November, December, January. I probably spent a good 5 months. I took a couple of weeks off in December. So like 4.5, 5 months I spent working on this talk, anywhere from 3 to 7 days a week, depending on where you got me in the cycle. Okay. Anywhere from 1 to 2 hours a day, 3 to 7 days a week, depending on where you got me in the cycle. But I'm a slow and steady person, and I like to be slow, steady, and consistent over time. That's how I work best. So you just have to know your own rhythm and how you work. But know that no matter what, it is a lot of work. I got to meet amazing people. I got to give a talk that I was really, really proud of, and that I really, really hope will have an impact. So if you've got any questions about what it means to give a TED Talk, about the process, I would love to hear it. So, I mean, please, you know, reach out to me. You can email me. You can put them in the comments, whatever. But I would love to hear about it. And if it's something that you want to do, I absolutely encourage you to go for it, because you get to push yourself and challenge yourself in these amazing ways, and you're absolutely not going to regret it.